The Kronos maximum security orbital prison hung in space like a titanium middle finger to the concept of freedom. It was a perfect cube, 3 kilometers on each side, bristling with enough weapons to vaporize a small moon, and powered by a reactor that could run for 10,000 years without maintenance. The galaxy's worst criminals called it home. The galaxy's best security experts called it a masterpiece. Everyone else just called it hell. Warden Vexthor stood in his observation deck, all forearms crossed in satisfaction as he watched the latest transport approach. He was a Krillian, which meant he looked like someone had combined a praying mantis with a bodybuilder and given the result anger management issues. His exoskeleton gleamed under the station lights, polished to perfection, because Vexthor believed presentation mattered. 32 years he had run Kronos. 32 years without a single successful escape. Not one. He had a plaque about it. The transport docked with a mechanical thunk that resonated through the hull. Vexthor made his way to the intake bay, his taloned feet clicking on the metal floor in a rhythm he found intimidating. Today's arrival was special. Not because the prisoner was particularly dangerous, though the human had quite the rap sheet. No, this one was special because the bounty hunter who caught him had specifically requested Vexthor be present for the handover. The airlock hissed open, and out walked the bounty hunter dragging a human in electromagnetic restraints. The human was unremarkable by galactic standards. Bipedal, no natural weapons, skin that looked like it would tear if you sneezed on it too hard. He had brown hair that stuck up in several directions, a crooked smile and eyes that seemed to be laughing at a joke no one else had heard. Warden Vexthor, the bounty hunter grunted, shoving the human forward. Marcus Webb, smuggler, con artist, and general pain in my thorax. He is your problem now. Marcus looked around the intake bay with the enthusiasm of a tourist at a theme park. Wow, this place is nice. Industrial chic. Very dystopian. I love what you have done with the lighting. Really sets the mood for crushing despair. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Prisoner Webb, do you understand where you are? A orbital prison that probably cost more than 17 planetary economies. Yeah, I got the memo. This is Kronos maximum security. No one escapes from Kronos. In 3 decades, 63 species have tried. All have failed. Some died trying. Others went mad contemplating the futility of their situation. You will serve your sentence of 47 years, and you will do so in absolute compliance with regulations, or your stay will become significantly less comfortable. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Cool. Quick question, though. What is the Wi-Fi password? Is it case-sensitive? The bounty hunter left while laughing. Vexthor did not find it funny. There is no recreational network access in Kronos, prisoner. Right, maximum security, I get it. What about the gym? Do you guys have a gym? I am really trying to work on my core. Vexthor leaned down until his compound eyes were level with Marcus's face. This usually made prisoners wet themselves. Marcus just smiled wider. Let me be abundantly clear, human. This facility is equipped with quantum-locked cells, redundant AI monitoring systems, armed patrols every 6 minutes, and a gravitational field that makes teleportation physically impossible within 5,000 kilometers. The walls are composed of reinforced durasteel with a molecular binding strength that would require the heat of a small star to breach. Every prisoner is tracked by subdermal implants that monitor location, heart rate, and stress levels. There are no blind spots, there are no weaknesses, there is no escape. Wow, you have really thought of everything. That is actually impressive. Do you have a brochure? I feel like you should have a brochure. 2 guards, heavily armed and looking perpetually annoyed, grabbed Marcus by his arms. Vexthor watched as they dragged him toward the cell blocks, the human still talking the entire way. Seriously, though, the attention to detail is fantastic. I'm going to leave you such a good review on Galactic Advisor. 5 stars. Do you have a suggestion box? The door sealed behind them with a hiss that sounded remarkably final. Vexthor returned to his office, dismissed the encounter from his mind, and went back to his reports. Just another prisoner. Just another 47 years of nothing interesting happening. In cell block 7, level 19, Marcus Webb was shoved into his new home. The cell was 4 meters by 3 meters, contained a sleeping platform, a sanitation unit, and absolutely nothing else. The walls were smooth durasteel, seamless and cold. The force field door hummed with enough power to atomize anything that touched it. Marcus sat on the sleeping platform, looked around his cell with the same cheerful expression, and started humming a tune while examining the walls. He traced his fingers along the seams where wall met ceiling, nodding to himself like he was inspecting real estate. The cell next to Marcus contained something that had given 3 guards nightmares and required hazard pay. Krieg was a thoraxian, which meant he stood 8 feet tall, had 6 legs that ended in razor-sharp points, and a carapace that had stopped plasma fire on at least 4 documented occasions. His mandibles could shear through bone, his eyes tracked movement with predatory precision, and he had killed 17 beings in self-defense before the courts decided maybe he should take a break from society. 17 consecutive life sentences. The judicial system had really wanted to make a point. Marcus heard the clicking before he saw anything. Then a massive insectoid face appeared at the electromagnetic barrier between their cells. Krieg studied the human with the intensity of someone trying to decide if you were food or just annoying. "You are loud," Krieg rumbled, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "Thanks. I have been working on my projection. You must be my neighbor, Marcus Webb, pleased to meet you." Marcus extended his hand before remembering there was a barrier between them, and also that shaking hands might not be a thoraxian custom. Krieg's antennae twitched. "You seem unconcerned about your imprisonment." "Oh, I am very concerned. This jumpsuit is not my color, the mattress is basically a rock, and I am pretty sure the food violates several conventions on cruel and unusual punishment. But you know, positive attitude and all that. You are planning to escape." "What? No, that would be illegal. 63 species have tried. I was here for 11 of those attempts. The Valerian hive mind tried to quantum tunnel through the walls. They succeeded in creating a small hole. Then the automated repair system sealed it in 3 seconds and vented their cell into space. The crystal-born tried to vibrate at a frequency that would shatter the molecular bonds of the durasteel. They shattered themselves instead. The Mektar simply tried to fight their way out. They made it to the second checkpoint before the automated turrets rendered them into component atoms. Marcus sat up straighter. "Okay, but here is the thing. What methods have not been tried? Like, has anyone tried asking nicely?" Krieg's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter or possibly just him chewing. "Asking nicely?" "Yeah. Or like finding a loophole in the system. I mean, the more complex a system is, the more potential points of failure, right? It is basic engineering. The warden has thought of everything. See, people always say that, but it is never actually true. There is always something, some little detail that gets overlooked because it seems insignificant." Before Krieg could respond, the cell block echoed with the sound of heavy boots. The daily security check right on schedule. 6 guards marched down the corridor, stopping at each cell to run biometric scans, check the force field integrity, and generally remind everyone that resistance was futile. The lead guard stopped at Marcus's cell. "Prisoner Webb, stand for scanning." Marcus stood, arms out, while the guard ran a handheld device over him. The device beeped its confirmation that yes, this was indeed still Marcus Webb, and he had not been replaced by a shapeshifter or a hologram. "New prisoner orientation," the guard said in a bored monotone. "You get 2 meals per day, you get 40 minutes of recreation per week in the communal yard. You get 0 visitors unless approved by the warden. You get to send 1 message per month to family, which will be screened. You do not get to complain. You do not get special treatment. You especially do not get to cause trouble. Understood?" "Crystal clear. Hey, quick question. Who do I talk to about filing a formal complaint?" The guard's expression suggested this was not the first time someone had asked that. "Complaint forms are available in the commissary, which you can access during recreation time. Not that it matters. No one reads them. But they are available? Technically. Cool. Also, I noticed my cell does not have any reading material. Is there a library or something? Reading material can be requested through the commissary database. You get access once per week." "Outstanding. And your name is?" The guard looked at his badge like he had forgotten he was wearing one. "Junior Guard Plixnor. Why?" Just like to know who I am working with. Thanks, Plixner. You seem like a reasonable guy. Do you like your job here? Plixner, who was a Delvarian and therefore had skin that shifted colors based on his emotions, turned a sort of confused purple. It is a job? Right, but do you enjoy it? The routine, the structure, the knowledge that you are keeping the galaxy safe from people like me? I suppose I never thought about it that way. You should. Job satisfaction is important. My dad always said if you are not happy with what you do, you are just counting down to retirement, and that is no way to live. The other guards were staring now. One of them grabbed Plixnor by the shoulder and pulled him away. Stop fraternizing with the prisoner. I was not fraternizing, I was just... Move along. They continued their rounds, but Marcus noticed Plixnor glance back twice. Krieg watched the entire exchange with increasing fascination. You are definitely planning something, Krieg said once they were alone again. I am planning to be a model prisoner and serve my time quietly. Speaking of which, do you know what shift changes are like? Just curious about the schedule. Krieg's antennae drooped in what might have been the insectoid equivalent of a sigh. You are going to get us both killed. Nah, I am going to get us better meal options. Trust me. Marcus lay back on his sleeping platform, staring at the ceiling with a smile that suggested he knew something the universe did not. He started humming again, counting seconds between guard patrols, memorizing the rhythm of the station, and mentally cataloging everything Plixnor had said. 1 week passed, and Marcus Webb became the model prisoner. He followed every rule, attended every mandatory activity, and never once complained about anything. This made absolutely everyone suspicious. Krieg watched from his cell as Marcus exercised during recreation time, the human doing push-ups while seemingly counting something under his breath. The recreation yard was a circular chamber with artificial gravity and monitoring systems that could track a fruit fly's movement. 18 other prisoners occupied the space, most of them keeping to themselves and trying not to make eye contact with Krieg. Marcus finished his exercises and walked over to the commissary terminal, the one device prisoners could interact with to request basic supplies. He pulled up the request form, spent 15 minutes filling something out, then submitted it with a satisfied nod. When he returned to his cell, Krieg's curiosity finally won out. What did you request? Extra blanket. It gets cold at night. Also filed a complaint about the temperature regulation. They will ignore it. Probably. But I filled out the form correctly, cited the relevant regulation codes, and submitted it through proper channels. That creates a record. A record of what? Of them ignoring a legitimate complaint. You would be surprised how useful records are. Marcus pulled out something from under his sleeping platform, a collection of meal trays he had been systematically arranging. On the surface of the trays, he had scratched tiny marks using his thumbnail, marks that formed a pattern only visible if you knew what you were looking for. Krieg leaned closer to the barrier. What is that? Guard rotation schedule. See, every day at 0800 hours the shift changes, but there is a 3-minute gap where the new guards are getting briefed and the old guards are leaving. During that gap, the monitoring intensity drops by approximately 17% because the AI system assumes both shifts are present. Right here. Marcus pointed to a specific tray. On level 7, there is a maintenance corridor that only gets checked during the shift change, not during regular patrols. How do you know this? I have been watching. Also, Plixnor talks when he is nervous, and he is always nervous. Did you know his supervisor gives him grief about his reports being too detailed? I know because he mentioned it when I asked him how his day was going. Turns out, when you treat guards like people, they sometimes forget you are a prisoner and just chat. Krieg's mandibles opened and closed slowly. You are insane. I am efficient. There is a difference. Marcus sat back on his platform, arms behind his head. See, here is the thing about humans. We are not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the fastest. But we are really, really good at finding patterns and exploiting them. It is basically our whole evolutionary strategy. We looked at saber-toothed tigers and said, what if we just avoid their teeth and use pointy sticks instead? We looked at flying and said, "We do not need wings. We will just build something that flies for us." We look at impossible problems and think, okay, but what if we just cheat? The warden has eliminated all possible cheats. No, he has eliminated all possible escapes. That is not the same thing. Explain. Marcus grinned, and for the first time Krieg saw something genuinely dangerous in the human's expression. Not violence, but something worse. Intelligence with mischief. Every security system is built on assumptions. The assumption that prisoners want to escape. The assumption that they will use force or technology or cleverness to breach containment. The assumption that the goal is to get out. But what if the goal is not to escape? What if the goal is to make the system work for you instead of against you? That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. This prison runs on regulations, right? Galactic law, station protocols, prisoner rights conventions. The warden is so proud of his perfect record that he has made the system rigid, inflexible. Every procedure is followed exactly. Every rule is enforced precisely. That kind of perfection is actually a weakness, because it means the system cannot adapt to something it was not designed to handle. And what is that? Bureaucracy, the great human superpower. We did not conquer our planet with weapons, Krieg. We conquered it with paperwork, committees, legal frameworks. We built civilizations on the idea that if you follow the rules exactly, you can make the rules work for you. And I just spent 7 days memorizing every regulation in the Kronos operational database. Krieg stared at Marcus like the human had just claimed he could breathe vacuum. How? Requested access to the legal database. It is a prisoner right under Galactic Convention 47B. They have to provide it. I have been reading 16 hours a day. Did you know that under subsection 19 of the prisoner treatment protocols, any prisoner can request a formal appeal hearing if they believe their detention violates treaty obligations, and that the hearing must be conducted within 30 days of request in person, with full access to legal representation databases? That is a pointless regulation. Appeals never succeed. They are not supposed to succeed, but they have to be held. That is the difference. Marcus leaned forward, his smile growing. I am not planning to escape, Krieg. I am planning to make them let me out, completely legally, according to their own rules. And the beautiful part? The more perfect their system is, the easier it is to exploit because they cannot deviate from procedure without admitting their system has flaws. You truly are insane. Yeah, probably, but it is going to be hilarious. Marcus pulled out another meal tray and started scratching more marks, this time forming what looked like a flowchart of legal procedures. Krieg watched in fascinated horror as the human hummed cheerfully to himself, occasionally muttering things like cross-reference with Article 94 and loophole big enough to fly a cruiser through. 23 days after Marcus Webb entered Kronos Maximum Security Orbital Prison, Warden Vexthor received a notification that made his blood run cold. Well, technically, Krillian's did not have blood, but his circulatory fluid definitely dropped a few degrees. Appeal hearing request, granted by automated legal system. Prisoner Webb Marcus, scheduled for 0900 hours tomorrow, courtroom 3. Vexthor read the notification 3 times, certain there had been a mistake. No one requested appeal hearings because no one won appeal hearings. They were a formality, a legal fiction to pretend the system was fair. The fact that one had been auto-approved meant the prisoner had somehow navigated the bureaucratic requirements perfectly. Get me his file, Vexthor barked at his assistant. The file was extensive. Marcus Webb had been caught smuggling restricted technology through neutral space, evading customs on 4 different planets, and running a con operation that had bilked 3 corporations out of enough money to buy a small space station. He was clever, charming, and apparently had memorized the entire galactic legal code in 3 weeks. This is a waste of time, Vexthor muttered. But procedure must be followed. The next morning, Marcus was escorted to courtroom 3, a small chamber designed for exactly this kind of pointless formality. The room contained a judge's podium, currently occupied by a holographic AI representing legal authority, a defendant's stand, and several monitoring stations. Marcus walked in carrying a stack of handwritten notes that he had been compiling using requisitioned paper from the commissary. He had organized them with makeshift tabs created from torn meal packaging. Vexithor sat in the observation section, confident this would be over in minutes. The AI judge activated. Prisoner Marcus Webb, you have filed an appeal claiming your detention violates treaty obligations. State your case. Marcus cleared his throat dramatically. Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the opportunity to address this court. My appeal is based on 3 fundamental violations of my rights under galactic law. First, I was detained without proper verification of jurisdiction. Second, my detention violates Trade Treaty 447B, subsection 12, which grants diplomatic immunity to certified trade mediators operating in neutral space. Third, the charges against me were filed in a court that lacked proper authority under the revised Commerce Accords of 2257. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in irritation. Those are absurd claims. You were caught with illegal technology. Allegedly illegal. The technology in question was quantum-locked communication devices, which are only illegal if transported through sovereign space. I was in neutral space. Neutral space falls under trade treaty jurisdiction, not criminal law. The AI judge processed this. Clarification required. Were you in neutral space at time of detention? Yes, Your Honor. Sector 19. Coordinates logged in my arrest report. Vexthor leaned forward. The technology you carried is illegal regardless of jurisdiction. Marcus flipped through his notes. Actually, according to the revised Commerce Accords, Article 93, items classified as restricted technology can be legally transported by certified trade mediators if they are carrying proper documentation and operating under provisional trade agreements. You are not a certified trade mediator. Actually, I am. Marcus pulled out a document from his stack. I obtained certification from the Galactic Commerce Guild 17 months ago. It is registered under my legal name, Marcus Allen Webb, registration number 77492 Delta. The Guild requires minimal qualifications and 20 credits. Best investment I ever made. The AI judge's hologram flickered. Verification required. Accessing Commerce Guild database. Vexthor felt something he had not experienced in 32 years. Concern. The AI returned. Certification confirmed. Prisoner Webb is registered as a trade mediator, status active. That does not grant immunity from smuggling charges, Vexthor insisted. It does if the items were being transported under provisional trade agreement, which they were. Marcus pulled out another document. I was hired by Techron Industries to deliver those communication devices to their research facility in Sector 20. Here is the contract, properly filed with the Commerce Guild, dated 6 weeks before my arrest. The devices were not illegal contraband. They were legal trade goods. Vexthor grabbed the document from the bailiff's drone, reading it with growing horror. It was legitimate. The dates were correct. The signatures were verified. This is a forgery, Vexthor said, but his voice lacked confidence. It is notarized by the Commerce Guild's automated system. Are you claiming the Guild system is compromised? Because that would require filing a separate investigation, which would suspend all current legal proceedings until resolved. That would take approximately 6 to 8 months, during which I would need to be released on provisional status pending investigation results. The AI judge processed this. Warden Vexthor, the prisoner's documentation appears legitimate. Do you wish to challenge the authenticity and trigger formal investigation protocols? Vexthor's mind raced. If he challenged it and was wrong, it would be a bureaucratic nightmare. If he did not challenge it, the appeal might actually succeed. Either option was unacceptable. I need time to verify these claims, Vexthor said. Under Procedural Code 77, verification must occur within 48 hours, or the appeal proceeds with existing evidence, the AI stated. Marcus smiled innocently. I am happy to wait 48 hours, Your Honor. In the meantime, since we have established that my detention is questionable, I would like to file a motion for transfer to minimum security pending verification. Motion denied, Vexthor snapped. Actually, under Article 103 of prisoner rights, any prisoner with pending appeals that challenge detention legality must be moved to reduced security unless deemed an imminent threat. Am I deemed an imminent threat, Warden? This was a trap. If Vexthor said yes, he would need to provide evidence. If he said no, the transfer was automatic. You are a flight risk, Vexthor tried. How? I am on an orbital prison. Where would I fly to? The vacuum of space? Junior guard Plixnor, who had been assigned to courtroom security, made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Vexthor glared at him. The AI judge considered. Warden, provide evidence of imminent threat status, or transfer must be approved. Vexthor had no evidence. Marcus had been a model prisoner. The AI knew it because every action was logged. Transfer approved, the AI stated. Prisoner Webb will be moved to minimum security block 4 pending verification of appeal claims. 48-hour deadline begins now. Marcus gathered his papers, still smiling. Thank you, Your Honor. This has been very productive. As guards escorted Marcus out, he passed Vexthor and said quietly, I really do think you have done a great job with this place, Warden. The attention to procedure is commendable. Truly. Vexthor watched him leave, and for the first time in 3 decades he wondered if his perfect prison had a flaw he had never considered. Not in the walls or the weapons or the monitoring systems, but in the very rules that governed them. Minimum security block 4 was less a prison and more of a waiting room with bunks. The force fields were lighter, the guards less numerous, and the entire atmosphere suggested that everyone here was just marking time until paperwork cleared. Marcus arrived with his stack of notes and immediately requested access to the commissary terminal to continue his legal research. Krieg, still in maximum security, watched through the station's internal monitoring system that Marcus had somehow convinced a guard to let him access. The human had claimed he needed to maintain contact with his legal representation, which was technically himself, which meant he needed communication access, which meant he needed a terminal. The logic was circular, but technically valid. He is going to escape during the transfer, Krieg muttered to himself, watching Marcus chat cheerfully with the minimum security inmates. But Marcus did not escape. He spent the next 48 hours doing exactly what he said he would do, researching legal precedents and filing supplementary documentation. He also did something else. He talked to everyone: guards, inmates, maintenance staff, kitchen workers. Marcus Webb had apparently decided that networking was his new hobby. He asked about their lives, their jobs, their complaints about the system. He was friendly, helpful, and completely non-threatening. He helped one inmate file a commissary complaint properly. He showed a guard a more efficient way to organize patrol reports. He complimented the kitchen staff on their meal preparation skills, which made them laugh because the food was notoriously terrible. Plixnor found himself assigned to Marcus's section through what he insisted was pure coincidence, but might have been influenced by the scheduling system glitching after someone accessed it with proper credentials. Marcus greeted him like an old friend. Plixnor, good to see you, buddy. How has your week been? Confusing, mostly. The warden has been very stressed. Yeah, I feel bad about that. I am just trying to make sure my rights are respected, you know? Nothing personal. Are you actually going to win your appeal? Marcus shrugged. Probably not, but I might get my sentence reduced. Or transferred to a nicer facility. Somewhere with windows. Do you know how depressing it is not having windows? Humans need natural light. Well, simulated natural light. We get seasonal depression. I did not know that. Oh yeah, it is a whole thing. We are very fragile psychologically. That is probably why we developed bureaucracy. It gives us something to do besides contemplate existential dread. Plixnor's skin shifted to an amused yellow color. You are strange, Marcus Webb. I prefer charmingly eccentric, but I will take strange. What no one noticed was that during these conversations, Marcus was gathering information, not through interrogation but through genuine conversation. He learned that Plixnor was frustrated with the filing system, that the head guard on level 7 had a daughter graduating from academy, that the kitchen staff resented the supply chain inefficiencies, that maintenance was behind schedule on environmental system updates. 47 hours and 30 minutes into the verification period, Marcus submitted his final document. It was a comprehensive legal brief, cross-referenced and properly formatted. arguing that his detention was invalid under 3 separate treaty frameworks. More importantly, it requested an emergency transfer to a civilian court for final appeal processing. The AI legal system processed the request. Under galactic law, if a prisoner's detention was challenged on treaty grounds, and if the challenge was sufficiently documented, they could request transfer to a civilian facility pending final resolution. It was an obscure rule rarely used because most prisoners did not have the patience or knowledge to properly invoke it. Marcus had both. The AI approved the transfer request. Transfer to occur within 24 hours to the civilian court facility on Outpost Gamma, 6 days travel away. Vexthor received the notification and immediately tried to override it. The system rejected his override. The transfer was automatically approved by the legal AI, which had higher authority than warden privileges in matters of treaty law. This is insane, Vexthor raged. He cannot just file paperwork and walk out of maximum security. He is not walking out, his assistant pointed out. He is being legally transferred under armed guard to another facility. To a civilian facility with significantly lower security. Which is what the law requires, Warden. Vexthor stared at the transfer order, feeling his perfect record crumbling. He called an emergency meeting with the senior staff, demanding they find a loophole to block the transfer. They found nothing. Marcus had done everything correctly, cited every relevant regulation, and followed every procedure exactly. He planned this from day one, Vexthor realized. The complaints, the research, the appeal, it was all building to this. Should we alert the transport ship to expect escape attempt? The security chief asked. There will be no escape attempt, Vexthor said bitterly. He is going to walk onto that ship, smile at the guards, and follow every rule perfectly, because that is his entire strategy. He is beating us with our own procedures. Transfer day arrived. Marcus was escorted to the docking bay by 4 armed guards, including Plixner. He carried nothing but his legal documents and a cheerful attitude. This has been a great experience, Marcus told the guards. Really learned a lot about the importance of proper documentation. You guys run a tight ship. Well, tight prison, you know what I mean. The transport ship captain checked the transfer orders, verified Marcus's identity, and signed the custody forms. Everything was in order because Marcus had prepared everything perfectly. As Marcus walked up the boarding ramp, Plixnor called out, "Hey Marcus, good luck with your appeal." Marcus turned and grinned. "Thanks, buddy. Hey, you should really talk to your supervisor about that filing system thing we discussed. You would be surprised how much easier your job could be with a few procedural tweaks." The transport door sealed. The ship undocked. Marcus Webb left Kronos Maximum Security Orbital Prison without breaking a single rule, bypassing the most sophisticated security system in the galaxy through nothing more complicated than proper paperwork. In his cell, Krieg watched the transport disappear on the monitoring system and made a sound that might have been laughter. The human was right. He did not escape. He debugged the system. Vexthor stood in the docking bay, staring at the empty space where the transport had been, and wondered how 32 years of perfect security had been defeated by someone who just read the instruction manual. Vexthor returned to his office in a daze, trying to process what had happened. His perfect record was not technically broken. No one had escaped. A prisoner had been legally transferred according to proper procedures. But it felt like defeat anyway, and Warden Vexthor did not handle defeat well. He was halfway through drafting a report to the Galactic Prison Authority when his terminal chimed. Internal security alert. Cell Block 7. Maximum security. Level 19. Marcus Webb's former cell. Vexthor pulled up the security feed. The cell was empty as expected, but on the wall, written in what appeared to be condiment packages from the commissary, was a message. The monitoring system had flagged it because technically writing on prison walls was vandalism. The message was surprisingly long. Vexthor read it with increasing disbelief. Dear Warden Vexthor, thank you for your hospitality during my stay at Kronos Maximum Security Orbital Prison. I wanted to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation for the professionalism displayed by your staff and the remarkable attention to detail evident in every aspect of this facility. During my time here, I learned a great deal about your security systems, operational procedures, and regulatory framework. As a token of my gratitude, I wanted to share a few observations that might be helpful for future improvements. 1. The 3-minute gap during shift changes on Level 7 creates a minor vulnerability in surveillance coverage. I recommend staggering shift changes by 5 minutes to maintain continuous monitoring. 2. The automated legal system has higher override authority than warden privileges in matters of treaty law. This could potentially be exploited by prisoners with legal knowledge. Consider revising the authority hierarchy. 3. Junior Guard Plixnor is an excellent employee who would benefit from additional training in prisoner psychology. He has great instincts but needs more confidence. Promote him. He earned it. PS4. The commissary filing system is inefficient and frustrates your staff. I have included a suggested reorganization protocol in the supplementary documents filed with my appeal. 5. Your pride in this facility's perfection is both your greatest strength and your most significant weakness. A system designed to be perfect becomes brittle when faced with unexpected challenges. Consider implementing more flexible response protocols. I have deposited my remaining commissary credits into the general fund for prisoner welfare programs. It should cover about 6 months of improved meal quality. Consider it an investment in morale. Thank you again for everything. This has been an educational experience for both of us. With respect and admiration, Marcus Webb. You really should have windows. Even fake ones would help with the psychological atmosphere. Just a thought. Vexthor stared at the message for a full minute, his mind struggling to process the sheer audacity of it. Then he checked the commissary accounts. Marcus had somehow accumulated 8,000 credits during his imprisonment, apparently through exploiting a mathematical loophole in the prison's betting pool regulations. He had donated every credit to the welfare fund, properly documented and legally transferred. A secondary alert arrived. Supplementary documentation detected in legal system. Vexthor opened it and found a detailed analysis of Kronos security procedures, complete with diagrams, recommendations, and cross-references to galactic best practices. It was a professional consultation report, the kind security firms charged millions of credits for. Marcus Webb had audited the prison from the inside and left his findings as a parting gift. Vexthor's terminal chimed again. This time it was a message from the Galactic Prison Authority. They had reviewed Marcus's appeal and the subsequent transfer. They were impressed with how thoroughly their procedures had been tested and how many minor flaws had been identified. They were promoting Warden Vexthor for his facility's robust legal compliance and were implementing several of Marcus Webb's suggested improvements across all maximum security facilities. Vexthor was getting an award for being defeated by paperwork. 6 days later, Marcus Webb sat on a beach on Thalassia Prime, a resort planet known for its bioluminescent waves and complete lack of extradition treaties. He wore sunglasses, held a drink with a small umbrella in it, and was reading a data pad with evident satisfaction. His communicator buzzed. The ID showed a frequency he recognized immediately. Krieg, how did you get access to external communications? The Thraxian's voice rumbled through the speaker, sounding remarkably pleased. I received a pardon. In the mail. Official documents, properly filed, citing exemplary behavior and completed rehabilitation assessment. The assessment was filed 3 weeks ago. I never took an assessment. Marcus sipped his drink. Weird. Bureaucracy works in mysterious ways. You filed it. During your appeal research, you accessed prisoner records and submitted rehabilitation paperwork for 47 inmates who qualified but had never applied because they did not know the option existed. Did I? I must have gotten confused with all that legal research. Easy mistake. Marcus Webb, you are either the most dangerous human in the galaxy or the most helpful. I have not decided which. Why not both? Marcus watched the waves, his smile reflecting the bioluminescent glow. So what are you going to do with your freedom? I have been offered a position, security consulting. A prison reform organization wants someone who understands containment systems from the inside. They said a human named Webb recommended me. You would be great at that. You know all the ways prisoners think. That is valuable expertise. What about you? Will you simply retire to beaches now? Marcus laughed. Retire? I'm just getting started. See, here is something interesting about my case. The appeal was legitimate. The trade mediator certification, the documentation, all real. But the charges against me were also real. I did smuggle restricted technology. The trade agreement existed, but it was not for communication devices. Those were hidden inside the legal cargo. So you were guilty. Completely. But I was also legally protected by treaty law, which created a jurisdictional paradox. The civilian court could not prosecute me without violating the trade treaty, but they could not let me go without dismissing legitimate charges. So they did what bureaucracies always do when faced with impossible situations. They compromised. Which means they hired me. Officially, I am now a contractor for the Galactic Prison Reform Commission. My job is to test maximum security facilities by attempting to identify vulnerabilities. I get paid to find flaws in impossible prisons. Krieg's laughter rumbled through the speaker. They turned you into a professional escape consultant. I prefer the term security auditor, but yes. And the best part? Everything I do is completely legal now. I get authorization to enter the facilities, access to their systems, and a mandate to find weaknesses. It is like being a criminal except with benefits and a retirement plan. You planned this from the beginning, before you were even caught. Marcus's smile widened. The bounty hunter who caught me, I paid him. The restricted technology, planted evidence that was technically legal under obscure trade law. The whole thing was an elaborate job application. I wanted to get into Kronos specifically because it had the best reputation. If I could beat their system, I could beat anything. You set yourself up to be arrested and imprisoned just to prove you could escape legally. Not escape, debug. There is a difference. Escaping implies breaking the rules. I just followed them really, really well. Humans do not break systems, Krieg. We read the manual, find the typos, and exploit them until someone writes a better manual. You are insane. So I have been told, but I am insane with a legal paycheck and excellent job security. Speaking of which, I need to go. I have a new assignment starting next week. Another prison? The Obsidian Vault. They say it is even more secure than Kronos. Something about quantum-locked cells that exist in folded space-time. Should be fun. Marcus, one question. Why did you help me? And the other prisoners? You could have simply escaped without the additional complications. Marcus was quiet for a moment, watching the waves pulse with blue light. Because the system is not just broken for people trying to escape, Krieg. It is broken for everyone in it. Guards working soul-crushing jobs following pointless procedures. Prisoners rotting away because no one bothered to file rehabilitation paperwork. Wardens so obsessed with perfection, they forget why prisons exist in the first place. If I am going to break things anyway, might as well fix them on the way out. You are a strange form of criminal, Marcus Webb. I am not a criminal anymore, remember? I am a consultant. Totally different. Much more respectable. I wear business casual now. Somehow I doubt that. Marcus looked down at his beach shorts and flip-flops. Okay, business casual is aspirational, but I am working on it. They said their goodbyes and Marcus returned to his datapad. He pulled up the file on the Obsidian Vault, reading through their security specifications with the enthusiasm of someone who had just been handed a puzzle box and told it was impossible to solve. His communicator buzzed again. This time it was an official message from the Galactic Prison Authority. They were offering him a performance bonus for his work at Kronos. The bonus was substantial. Apparently, Warden Vexthor's facility had implemented all of Marcus's suggestions and had seen a measurable improvement in both security effectiveness and staff morale. The prison was now more secure than ever. More secure, but no longer perfect. And that, Marcus thought, was the real victory. He finished his drink, gathered his datapad, and headed back toward his rented villa. Tomorrow he would start preparing for the Obsidian Vault. He would research their procedures, memorize their regulations, and find the inevitable flaw in their quantum-folded space-time prison cells. Because no matter how sophisticated the system, Humans had one advantage that no amount of technology could overcome. They read the instruction manual. All of it, including the footnotes, especially the footnotes. And if there was one thing Marcus Webb had learned in his career, it was that the devil was not in the details. The devil was in the poorly worded subsection of Article 93, cross-referenced with the revised treaty accords, as interpreted under the jurisdictional framework established in case law from 200 years ago that everyone had forgotten about. Humans did not break out of prisons. They found the typo in the locked source code and walked out through the front door, leaving a thank you note and a list of suggested improvements on their way out. Marcus smiled at the sunset, cracked his knuckles, and started reading the Obsidian Vault's operational manual. He gave it 3 weeks, maybe 4 if they had really good legal documentation. After all, every impossible prison was just a debugging project with better security guards, and Marcus Webb had always been very, very good at debugging.